want to invest in the stock market just because.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, well, the stock market's really volatile, so we have to protect them. We have to protect them from losing their money. No, like, if they invested into it, they know the risk. The
Yeah.
stock market isn't like you'll always get your investment back times 10, times 100. You're going to make all the profit. People know what the stock market is. They're not stupid.
Exactly.
They're investing their money into it.
And
So
I mean,
it's stupid that like they're reporting it like that.
yeah. And at the end of the day, there is a group of people. It's an unfortunate symptom of the times, or maybe just it's always been there. I really wouldn't be able to tell you, but you know, people have this kind of generalized idea of other people, especially when they get to a certain position in life where they can more easily look down on other people, and they'll basically say, well, you know, people that aren't me and my close friends and people who kind of live the same lifestyle as me, they're kind of dumb, right? Because they don't live the same lifestyle as me, because they don't live in the, you know, same place as me, they're kind of dumb, you know, because of where they choose to live and because of the industries that may sustain that particular place, they're kind of dumb. For all these different reasons, you know, people in certain places get it into their head that other people, the other, is just kind of dumb. And so if we just took a little bit of that person's choices away and ability to say, well, you know, I want to spend my money on this, or I want to spend my time on that, or I want to support this, or I want to do that, or I don't want to do this. You know, if we just kind of gave that person less of those options, they would be better off. You know, they'd be freer, because then they'd be free of this kind of hassle of having to pave their own way. And, you know, I mean, they're dumb, so they'll just probably fail anyway, so why do we want to let them do that? And that, like I said, it's an unfortunate symptom of a lot of people, I think. I don't think the majority of people, but I think the majority of people in high places in society would probably feel that way, which is not the majority of people that are actually our neighbors, which is a good thing.
What do you think about the lawsuit itself? Do you think like, oh, they're actually going to get punished for what they did? Do you think the government's going to give them a slap on the wrist just because like they're trying to protect the millionaires who are short, what's it called, short stocking or whatever?
Short selling.
Short selling.
So they should. I mean, I don't know how far the legal, you know, ramifications of doing what they did, which is stock manipulation, tend to be at the highest end. You know, I would imagine at some of the highest ends, when you're committing fraud, which is what market manipulation is, that there's jail time at the end of some of those crimes. So now, does that mean that the vast majority of people who commit those crimes end up doing the hardest end of that? No, I don't know. You know, who knows? There are probably people out there, but I don't know. So I think it's fully justified, the lawsuit. I think they deserve it. I think, you know, like I said, they get what's coming to them. They clearly shut off a portion of you know, their customer bases who, like I said, they claim to be for the people, for the retail investor, so for the common investor who doesn't have millions of dollars, he's not in a hedge fund, and he's just, you know, he just wants to test his luck in the stock market and test his knowledge. It's a combination of luck and knowledge, you know. It's not just luck and it's not just knowledge. So, you know, but their real customer, the way that they're able to not charge fees, because for the longest time, the standard within that kind of space was to charge a fee either, you know, to charge a fee per transaction. So it made you have to think more about every transaction you made. Now, Robinhood came along and they offer transactionless trading. Now, that doesn't mean they're a free trading platform. There's always, you know, a company has to figure out a way to make money. And the majority of their money is made taking the data from their traders, from their retail traders, and selling it to hedge funds and selling it to these people who spend a lot of money, who handle millions and billions of dollars in other people's wealth, and then so they pay for millions of dollars in data to look over it every single day, and then make choices and buy and sell stock based on that data. So their customer isn't the retail investor. So they basically, and people who kind of like really follow stocks and really are more into day trading and even more so into long-term investing, those people would tell you this. And the kind of general consensus within, I would say, like the financial advisor kind of knowledge was, if you're doing nothing, Robinhood is better than nothing. But if you're going to do something, Robinhood is not the best answer. And maybe when you get a little bit more into it and really want to sit down and spend, a couple hours a week or something like that thinking about this stuff, there's a little bit more options available to you that have more benefits. So, go ahead.
Can you explain, like, how do they charge you? Like, is the interface similar to Robinhood? Do they give you all the information on current events within the company, or is that up to you to do the research for it? So I've been on the Robinhood site, and I see, like, they give you information up to date on the companies.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, basically every trading platform, I think, that has an app at this point is going to have little news bulletins that are, basically related to companies that you may be following, or things you may have in search that are, they think you'd be interested in. So they're always going to have that. They're basically all going to generally have the same graphs and stuff like that. And then some have more features and some charge differently. So actually, when Robinhood came out, they kind of changed the way that pricing was done in the market, because once they were, basically out there saying, hey, we do, commission-free trading. That was their whole claim to fame. And so it was a way that people could, like I said, get in really, really, there was a low barrier to entry to day trading at that point. Well, that kind of changed all the other retail investor kind of oriented platforms and companies to kind of shift and do that as well. So a lot of companies pretty much offer that same thing. A lot of companies also offer commission-based trading. Like, I would personally recommend you do both. I'd recommend you have, a brokerage that handles some of your investments and do charge a commission. And there's a lot of reasons why that's a good thing. And I like how Dave Ramsey explains it. But also, on the side, especially if you're younger, and you have extra income, you should certainly do your own research and decide for yourself why you would want to invest in stocks. But if you find individual stocks, and this goes away from kind of what Dave Ramsey would tell you, if you like the company, buy a piece of the company. I don't understand why it's a bad thing. I don't understand why it would be a bad thing, for someone to say, well, I really want that new iPhone, but, I don't necessarily need it. And, one could argue that it would be a waste of money. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save up double the amount of what it would cost for me to buy this iPhone. And I'm going to buy the iPhone, and then I'm going to buy a piece of the stock. So now I own a piece of this company that I just bought something from. So I'm basically paying myself in a little, way. So and they're a dividend offering company, so they do actually pay you. When you're not picking dividend offering companies, you're kind of just speculating whether that company will grow. And there could be a lot of evidence that that company will grow, but it is just, speculation, because something could happen. So yeah, that's kind of where I would be on that. I kind of forgot the question, I'm gonna be honest, I'm sorry.
I was asking about the website you currently use. Like, do you think it's a good website? Do you think, like, people who are switching from Robinhood because they shut down the market and because, like, what they did, people don't really want to advertise with them more, people don't want to work with them anymore. do you think the website you use is a good alternative, or would you recommend something else? Do you know anything else from any other website?
Well, like I said, my website did the exact same thing, and TD Ameritrade is the website I use. They did the exact same thing. They halt purchases, and even if it was under the best possible guise, which is, there's a lot of volatility going on right now, and we just want to protect our investors, so we're gonna halt trading on some apps or on some tickers. So in the best possible light, which is what they've said, that's basically their public statement, because that does paint it in the best possible light. Even in that scenario, what you're saying is, well, we think people are going to make a stupid choice right now with their money, so we're going to not let them make that choice. We're going to take that choice away from them because they're too stupid to know otherwise. When the reality is, it's their money. Anyone who's investing in the stock market, whether it's these big hedge fund people or it's these tiny little retail investors, it's your money. If you want to spend it on something totally speculative that has the ability to go all the way to zero or go all the way to $1 million, you should be able to do that. The converse of that is, if you're the last one there and it goes to zero and you get stuck with that zero, you should have to eat it. Now, the reason so many people are angry and willing to do this in the first place and willing to hold the line is because, for a lot of the situations where these hedge funds have done the same exact, tactic, they get bailed out. They don't have to actually bite the bullet. They don't actually have to take responsibility. And so, even with it should be, kind of worth noting that these people, no one's going to bail them out when they lose their money. And they're still doing this. I know a lot of people joke about these Redditors about how, they're just kind of people in their basement with nothing better to do, and they're eating, chicken nuggies, and that's their life. But I would argue that a lot of them are probably pretty smart individuals who have to do a lot of research to understand these ticker signs and go and find this information. So to just write them all off, I think it's an easy thing to do, and so that's why they do it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know a place where you would go, not to shop at a place that could potentially do that same thing that Robinhood did. I mean, the fact of the matter is, really the reason why they shouldn't be kind of put down as these just kind of meme lords, trolls, that sort of thing, even though that is what they did. That's how they revealed ultimately the crack in the armor is, through a joke. And the reason why it shouldn't be put down is the same reason why, it's important, and it's the same reason why I can't recommend another place, is because any different retail platform can basically do the same thing, and a lot of them did. And it's just, it's the truth behind the joke, and the truth behind the joke is, you don't have control, and the game is not for you. The reason why people like Dave Ramsey and many other people, there's a diverse thought process in the conservative, whether you're fiscally conservative or socially conservative, or socially liberal and fiscally conservative, all of that. There's a very vast wealth of debate in kind of, I'm sorry, I'm trying to kind of put it all together, and I lost my train a little bit, so that sucks. Okay, so the reason why they kind of frame it to the average investor, like take the Dane Brandys of the world, is that it's a casino. When you go in there, it's gambling. You should understand that, because it's not an investing strategy. You're going to lose all your money. It's a bad idea, and you shouldn't play with the markets. Well, if that were 100% true, 100% of the time, there would be no hedge funds. There would be no investment groups. Billionaires would just do the same type of investing strategy that the small guy is told to do, which is, invest in the S&P, and buy mutual funds and just keep buying those. And, if you put enough money away through long-term investing, you will be able to retire wealthy. Now, I think everyone should do that. I think that is the right path. I think that's a good idea. But I think that you're lying to yourself if you're thinking that, like I said in the beginning, it's a combination of luck and skill. If you think it's just luck, you're wrong. If you think it's just skill, you're wrong. It's a combination of both. Now, there are ways to offset the amount of skill you have versus the amount of luck you have. These hedge fund managers, their equation is far less luck than you and me. They don't have to rely on luck nearly as much. They have so much other variables that they have working in their corner that for the vast amount of time, we didn't have in our corner. For the vast amount of time, it was knowledge. They could make the argument that, well, I go out and I spend millions of dollars for this data from these data analyst companies to collect all of it, to organize it, to make it, understandable, and then they give it to me because I buy it from them, and I spend all day looking over that data, and so I can make these calls. Because at the end of the day, these calls, they're very, very knowledgeable calls, but they're not just, based on fundamentals of companies or fundamentals of markets or anything like that. To a large extent, that does go into it. In almost every decision, that has to at some point be in the equation. But that's not the only variable. A lot of times, especially with day trading, you're trading based on emotion, not the individual. Most of the time, the successful ones are not trading on their own personal emotion. They're trading on the emotion of the markets. They're looking at the general population and seeing how are people feeling. Are they scared? Are they ambitious? Are they hopeful? What are these emotions that are driving the buying and selling habits of the market? And because I'm going to look at those emotions and I'm going to buy and sell based on them. So there's a lot of different things that go into buying and selling that, it's not just market fundamentals. And for a long time, they had this aggregate control of data that just the average person had no way of getting. Now, the invention of the internet, the collective, all of these things have kind of, the collective power of, I would guess, social media, social platforms, those sort of things. The environment that people are in right now, they're basically been told, hey, stay in your home, don't go do anything fun outside for it's been almost a year now. So they've been in their homes on the internet, they've been, getting into new hobbies, they've been doing all this stuff, and now, the environment and the tools kind of make this perfect storm so that the retail investor, I would say, is getting to the point where they can compete toe to toe with the guy who's analyzing the data 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and that data is worth millions of dollars. Because all of the combined knowledge of human history, it's on the internet now. Anyone has access to it. It's not forbidden, it's not secret, you just have to be willing to put in the work to find it. And so people are putting, the reason why you're seeing this uptake is because more people have the time now. More people have the energy. Like I said, they can't go outside, so they're on the internet. And so the argument that, it's basically the leave it to the pros argument. They're the Wall Street investors. They can make money because, they have this knowledge. They're ahead. They can price things into the markets before you ever get the chance. For the vast amount of history, I would agree with that. I think that's true. The thing that's so fascinating to me about this story is that it's actually showing that these people who band together use their collective power to show the markets, or not to show the markets, but to show these hedge fund people that they have all the same data and they have all the same power as them. And you know, maybe they don't have the same power. I mean, you know, a lot of times these guys who lose billions of dollars, they're just gonna get new lines of revolving credit. They're just gonna take out more, you know, insurances to prevent this from happening in the future. They're gonna be fine. Like, yeah, they're gonna lose a lot of money, but they're not gonna suffer the way someone, you know, who would lose, you know, even hundreds of thousands of dollars out because, you know, they just beyond their control because their business got shut down. They don't get revolving lines of credit, and they don't get bailouts, and they don't get saved, and they don't get to look at their life in the kind of same context that people here are going to get to go forth. And you know, I guess that's besides the point. But for one, that's kind of to say like, oh well, that wouldn't that suggest that the Redditors are going to break for us? Well, on the other side, these Redditors are just, you know, like I said, a lot of them are smart, and a lot of them, you know, a lot of the same smart guys are also the same type of guys who aren't smart. And the thing those two groups have in common is they both got nothing to lose. I mean, they'll sit there and they'll say, hold the line, and they'll watch it go up and go up and go up and think, you know, where a rational person would say, I should cash out now. They'll be ideologues. They'll stay with it and they'll keep going. I imagine. I would say that's not something to put past them. You know, if I was a hedge fund guy, I would say I would be a little bit scared because these guys are nihilists. They have nothing to lose. They're like the Joker. They're just like, hit me. So they don't care, you know. So that would be a little scary for me if I had my money on the line against those guys, you know. So yeah, that wraps it all up. That's my thoughts on that.
Well, what do you talk about a different thing? I recently read this article. So this is an issue that was brought forward in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening in the UK, and I'm sure it's happening in the US too. I haven't read an article on it. It's just something I feel like would happen.
Mm-hmm.
But this is about college textbooks, and because everybody's doing it online now, since colleges are mostly closed, you can't go in person. Everybody's getting ebooks, right? They're getting their textbooks through like online, Amazon Prime or whatever, like the Kindle thing. They're getting their ebooks and they're buying them through that. Well, the ebooks on there have jumped up since the beginning of the year, not this year, 2020. Since like it started jumping up March of 2020, but it was already starting to jump up in January, where it's gone up 500% for textbook ebooks, and the paper copies have stayed the same. So they've just been charging more for ebooks. And it's insane. Their libraries are filing a lawsuit to the EU government, or not EU, UK government, against these companies because students aren't able to get their textbooks. And, you know, if it was a physical copy, there would be there's some money that goes into making a physical copy book. It costs some money. And with textbooks, you have to have like nice pages, nice fonts. Like it has to look like a nice book. With ebooks, there's no real downside. You don't even have the loss of not selling a book because the book isn't made. It's just words that you get in your phone or on a tablet or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're charging 500% more. It's gone up exponentially. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, so who is responsible for this? Is this like the colleges?
It's an issue with both textbook companies, and there's an issue with professors making their own book and then requiring the books to be bought from the students or by the students so that the
Well, go ahead, pull it up. Let's hear it.
So first off, here's a portion of the article. Anderson, which is like one of the library companies that's like filing the lawsuit against or to the UK government. Anderson reports that publishers introduced price rises for ebooks for libraries at the start of 2020, often alongside changes to licenses that meant instead of numerous students being able to access an online book simultaneously, only one student would be able to read it at a time. So they changed the licenses so multiple students can't read the book at once. Only one, and they're charging, let's see, example librarians have given include educational textbooks called Integrated Play-Based Curriculum for Young Children, published by Global Edge, offered to libraries in for $36.99 in print, and that's pound. So that's different with the dollar, $36.99 pound. But for £480 for an ebook that can only be read by one student at a time, the cost to libraries for one business studies book funded a corporation McGraw was £69 in print. 528 for an ebook that only one. They're charging. It's crazy for ebooks.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard
textbooks. Maybe psychology should be updated.
Yeah.
But stuff like how 50 years or like
the American people, you know, we're at the mercy of the unions. The teachers unions, they bought out all the politicians. The politicians are not going to work in our best interest. Right, left, or center. It's not going to happen. And the teachers unions bought out all the Democrats a long time ago. And so they get to tell Democrats to go tell people what the teacher unions are going to do. People, so the way I would think that you'd have to basically say, well, you know, as a teachers union, you can't do that. That's illegal. But they're not going to do it because, like I said, they've been bought out. So area where, like I said, rights issues, they've always the reality when it teachers union, teachers don't benefit other than and not anyway, and you know you're not helping anyone. And so that's when you have no learn an entire new skill to make, which is fine. The way it is. I hope for society's sake, we look at the whole education from pre-K all the way to higher education and say, is this bargain really benefiting us? Are we really getting the better end of this deal? Or maybe we're getting kind of played for suckers here. And so I think people should realize that, when you're stuck at home and you're still getting charged 5 figures for, and there's no dorm, no places to eat, benefits. All the people said, "Oh, well, grand we here." Really know how to stop it, unfortunately. I mean,
crazy that how does that even happen though? Like, so the whole point of the vaccine, the initial thing, which is currently going on, the initial, whoever gets the vaccine first, which is kind of going on right now, we're still in the first stage. The initial people are supposed to be 20, or not 25, 55 and up, elders, and the people who are like part of the, first responders, nurses, healthcare workers, the nursing homes, like those people are supposed to get it first. They work directly with old people, and older people are supposed to get it first. So how are these people, these like 20-year-old people who just have like $1,000 to spend on a plane ride to come down to the U.S. get a vaccine? How are they getting it? How is that approved? How is there no like? Even if you're 20, you're getting the vaccine. Wouldn't you have to provide proof that you work at a nursing home, or like that you're one of the first responders that's around elderly people, so you need the vaccine? How are they just giving it out that like anybody can fucking get it, even people who are just not from the country? That's the thing. Like IDs, how was it not put in place? It's crazy that there was no steps put in place to prevent this initially in the first place.
Yeah.
You're not keeping track of who's getting what.
So, sorry. Someone commented, they said they can't hear me. I'm wondering if I'm getting audio. Would be a shame if I wasn't, but it's very possible.
No audio?
Yeah. That's so weird. Really know how to stop it, unfortunately. Okay. Okay, well, I think it's gone. Okay, so can you repeat yourself? I'm sorry, I got so taken off. I had an answer for you. Oh, okay. So how do I think that's happening? Okay, I can explain it now. So one of the ways I think it's happening is the vaccine gets rolled out state by state differently. So every state has its own kind of standard. So that's one way that you can have, fraud is you can look at a state that has different standards and say, well, that's a lower standard. I'm gonna go there. And I, to some degree, I tend to agree with that process better, because I say, okay, well, first off, most situations should be handled on a state-to-state power. Like every power that the federal government doesn't have, and I know they want to grab all of them, the states have. That's how it's supposed to be. It's expressly written. So, that's not unnormal. And on top of that, if we were going to go beyond just, legal, how the law is written, how things should be governed, that sort of thing, that is how it would look. Now, just from the practicality of the situation, if we do it that way, then every state can run it the way they want. We can look at the data from every state's handling of it, and we can say, okay, well, here's how you handle that. Here's how you handle that. So what works, we can apply to more states. What doesn't work, we can say, okay, don't do that. So we don't just have to. I mean, I tend to disagree completely with the way some people handle it. Just when they say, oh, well, we need to make sure the frontline workers are getting it first, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think you should be first and foremost giving it out to the elderly. And that is basically the elderly and then pre-existing conditions. Because if you are younger and have pre-existing conditions, you have a more chance of catching it, but you don't have as high a chance of dying. If you're if you're a frontline worker and you're younger and you don't have pre-existing conditions, then you really don't have a chance of dying. The only people who really have a significant chance of dying, go ahead.
It's the vaccine, because you also have a higher range of you spreading. If you're working in a nursing home, people in a nursing home, they may not need the vaccine personally, because
okay, so with that's something that you would have to expressly put in, so it would be elderly and people working with elderly. So, you would want to vaccinate doctors who are working with people who have COVID, not because you're worried about the doctor getting COVID and dying. Obviously, you're worried about them getting COVID. You want them to take measures not to get it, and you don't want them to die either. But you would understand that them getting COVID as a young, presumably healthy in this scenario, doctor, you would imagine that's a lot less worse than an elderly person getting it, or them giving it to an elderly patient that they have to see. So you would give them the vaccine not to inoculate them so you're protecting them, but more so that you're protecting people around them. And this scenario would more than so be true in any case with nursing homes. So you'd vaccinate the people who are working in nursing homes, not to protect them, not because they're frontline workers, but to protect the at-risk people that they're dealing with on a day-to-day. But that's not the majority of frontline workers. The majority of frontline workers, who just are going to work and their place of work is not locked down. So that's all that is. So that's not, that's not that shouldn't be the priority group. That shouldn't be even a factor when it comes to prioritization. Is, what's your frontline? Are you frontline or not? No, it should be, do you work with the elderly or not? If you do, okay, well, you're going to get vaccinated because we don't want you to kill elderly people if you get the disease, or if you get the virus. So yeah. Now, another way that you can have people that come in and get the vaccine is, so the vaccine has an expiration date. And so once you take it out of the fridge, it will expire if not used. Now, let's say you have a place where you can go and you can get the vaccine, and they pull out, 10,000 vaccines. And let's say 95,000 or 99,000 people come in to get the vaccine that day. And so at the end of the day, they have 100 vaccines left. But there's no more elderly people. There's no more people waiting in line. Now, they have two options. Give the vaccine to anyone or throw the vaccine away. Because they're going to look and they're going to try and give it to any elderly person, presumably, in the best case scenario. They're going to try and give it to any elderly person waiting on it, because even in this scenario, people know, okay, well, if I wait in line and I'm not elderly, but they just want to get it because maybe they have grandparents that they want to spend time with, and they want to get it on their behalf, so they're waiting and they think, okay, well, if there's any left over and there's no other people at the when the time comes, when they're like an hour out from closing or an hour out from expiration, um, at that point it's just going to be, well, first come first serve. If you're in line, then you're going to get it. If you're a janitor, and you have to be there, they're going to ask you if you want it, and if you're there and you want it, you can get it. So at that point it's just first come first serve. We're not going to let these vaccines go to waste. So if you're here, we're going to give. If you want the vaccine, we're going to give you the vaccine. And so for that scenario, you could have someone that basically says, well, America's rolling out the vaccine. They have a lot more and doing it a lot faster than where I'm at. I'm going to go there and I'm going to see if I can get it. And if that scenario is basically there for up for grabs, I don't see where someone's in the wrong for taking advantage of that, because if you're not coming in illegally, you're not breaking that law. If you just travel in a lot of places is back on, so you can just come in and off a visa or a vacation kind of situation, and you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna try my luck, and you just go an hour out for closing, and it turns out they have some vaccines left. You just took the time out of your day. You played the gamble and you won. As opposed to the other people who were here, and they're citizens, and they just didn't take the time to go. Now, how often is that happening? I would say probably not often. I would say the vast majority of people who want it are sitting there saying, I don't have a problem waiting in line, so that if there's a chance for me to have it, I can get it. Not everyone, but like I said, even if someone gets in, I don't really think they've done anything wrong in that scenario that I've just outlined. There are scenarios where fraud could take place, and if so, fraud's always wrong in any scenario. So, not supporting that. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the number one thing we should be doing is checking to see if you're a citizen.
I mean, so let's assume we did that. Let's say in the scenario that I just pointed out, we, it comes time for closing, and they have, like I said, 100 extra vials. They have to give them out to everyone. How would they be able to know that someone's a citizen? When they're waiting in line and they're like, okay, they go down the line presumably and ask, what are the ages, and put the oldest people, try and get them inoculated first. But after that, what can they say?
If you're getting a vaccine, they would need to put it on your record that you got a vaccine, so that it would be on your medical record, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who goes to the hospital, like I have vaccine records. If I want to go to school, I have to provide to show that I can go. People who enter the country, they vaccine, or while they're here, to go to certain establishments like educational, if they're going for training or something, they have to get this vaccine before they can start any education, training of any sort. Mm-hmm. So you would have a record.
I mean, do that. Post, at the end of that, and wants to say, okay, after inoculated, we're going to go down as we're citizen. That, but okay, well, I mean, the line you find out, you inoculate all, and like a guy, and one vaccine, you got got them towards that problem. But unfortunately, as a collective conscious, what we do is not rational. What we do when the government does this metaphorical, finger jamming into the problem is we say, well, you know what would solve this? More government. So in this metaphor, what we're metaphorically doing is we're calling up another government representative to come in, look at this problem, and then jam their grubby, disgusting fingers into it. And these two government tards are just sitting there like rubbing their fingers into this problem, not getting anything done, and making everything worse for everyone. And we just keep complaining about it. We're just like, oh, this is terrible. Now there's two of them. And so our solution is, well, let's get a third one in here. Let's get the third one in here to make these guys stop. But the third one doesn't make them stop. He jams his fingers in there. And so now you just got just more and more government. And we never for a second stop to think, maybe I should subtract. I should take one away. I should take two away. Take three away. Take them all away. Figure out a way that the free market can do this. And now that doesn't solve every problem. Rich people are still going to come in from other places and buy stuff. And buy vaccines and buy things that you and I would say, hey, U.S. citizens should get that. Not citizens of France. That's going to happen. That's true. Capitalism, it's not about making the most moral system. It's just the fact that it's more effective than government because it's not government. And so, really, what it would end up doing is making it so you have an incentive for companies to produce more and then sell more of it, and thus reducing the price so that the little guy can buy it. So there is no cost. And the only cost that maybe someone who has more money than the little guy is incurring is the cost to get to the vaccine. But lucky for the little guy, he's already in the place that has more medical R&D than any other place in the world, and spearheaded the creation of the vaccine, and also happens to be a very rich country that can buy a lot of vaccine, and if there was more to buy, would probably be buying more. So sum it up, capitalism always wins. I wish there was more of it on the market. There's not. What are you gonna do? Rich people, meh. I don't get jealous of them. If that's how they want to spend their money, more power to them. And I don't know. Maybe there should be rules. Go ahead.
It's been a bit. Let's finish this up. Last question.
Okay.
Any movies you want to see recently? Like, I know there's a lot of Marvel, like, not even movies, but TV shows that are coming out on, Disney Plus?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Want to see? Right.
Mm-hmm. Watching it. Super interesting. It has
I think it's 4.
What?
I think it's 4.
I believe. Yeah. So, that's a difficult movie. Anytime they kind of that's movies like which hot. it's the kind of running joke is that it's like themed on different style sitcoms, styles of certain time periods, and that's super kind of trying to think quirky and cool and fun, but it's also really boring. When, just to be honest, like I said, they're setting the stage, so it's important. If you actually want to be kind of like live sports, you can just go on YouTube later and watch the highlights and the breakdowns and all that stuff, or you can sit through the actual event, and there may be points in the game when it's boring, but it's all worth it to be in real time watching this story unfold, and the stage is set, and when that moment comes down to it, and it's an adrenaline packed high stakes moment, now it's all worth it because you have this build up, this story that took you to this moment. So the moment itself may be boring, but when you get to that exciting moment, it's all worth it. So I recognize that going into it and sitting there and being like, I'm about to watch a kind of kooky, funny little sitcom show with hints of, comic book references and story arcs that I'm really fascinated and really interested to see, and that's really why I'm sitting down to watch this. Like, I'm sitting down for a superhero story, for a comic book story, for Vision and Wanda. Sitcom, that is, that story starts. That's what I have to. A lot of Easter eggs, a lot of hints, a lot of moments that make up for the boring parts where there's just, oh, that's really cool. Try and put one of those, watch.
Watching it, I just haven't.
Yeah.
Is there come out, or that is this year? Soon. Kind of interested in what movie Marvel are coming out soon. If you got both, if you only got one.
I mean, I'm certainly excited for the Robert Pattinson Batman. I mean, that's gonna be one of my favorite movies to see. I always love a new Batman movie, even when it's bad. I kind of still love it. Even when it's like, oh yeah, the world's greatest detective does absolutely no detective work. I still kind of like it. Like, I'm still just like, yeah, but he punches people. So I'm always interested, and I don't even think that movie. Like, I don't think Robert Pattinson's movie is gonna be that. I think it's gonna be really good. I think they are gonna dive into more of the fact that, hey, this is the world's greatest detective. This is Sherlock Holmes. They can punch someone and and move in the cover of darkness and shimmy up walls and do all sorts of crazy stuff. So that's pretty cool. You should not just explore the shimmying up walls and punching people part. You should also explore the Sherlock Holmes part, because that in and of itself kind of makes the whole picture much better. And so I'm excited for that. Marvel, I mean, Disney Plus is ramping it up. I'm excited for where The Mandalorian is going to go. I'm excited for all the Star Wars content. I really hope that they move in a different position with Star Wars. I mean, it's kind of funny because you looked at the direction that the movie kind of universe was going in, and the spearheader of the Star Wars canon, I don't remember her name at this point, but she's basically terrible. She just ruined the stories. She doesn't understand what Star Wars is at its core. And at its core, it's the hero's journey. And it's that, and then it's basically the story of a father and a son, and redemption. And it's just got all these underlying themes that those themes are what make it one of the best stories ever put to the screen. And it's not, oh, it's a sand planet with 2 moons. Oh, lightsaber fights. Although everyone likes lightsaber fights, and the amount of lightsaber fights in these new movies is criminal. Not the choreography. There's a lot of people that don't like that don't like the fact that these people are just flailing, these light swords around. That's true, but there's no order, there's no teachings that these people can draw from, like the old Republic, to give them a vast understanding of all the different styles. What Star Wars decisions like we're gonna reunite the we're gonna make the people, the heroes that you knew and loved, we're gonna make them losers. We're gonna make Luke a loser. We're gonna make Han a loser. Those kind of things, those decisions that go against, like I said, these themes, they were made by these people that put their bets in cinema, that put their bets in this cinematic universe, that looked at streaming and said, I don't really care about that. Yeah, I'm not going to really take a lot of interest in that, and kind of moderate and stand over the story and the creation, therefore, of all this stuff going on there. That's not where I want to put my money. And so because of that, it allowed these people, that were creating these stories to have free range and to do the things and to build the stories that they wanted to build. And the reason that's better than these other people building the stories that they wanted to build is because the people who are building these stories, who started in places like Cartoon Network and the Clone Wars and then moved to the streaming services on Disney Plus, those people grew up on Star Wars. Those people at their heart do know what Star Wars represents, do love Star Wars. And so, because of the pandemic, people switched to streaming. And I think already, had you just let it play out, the cream would have risen to the top, and we would have seen these writers, these producers, these directors, and the work that comes out of them, The Mandalorian and the Clone Wars and all that stuff, all that content, all that Star Wars content, we would have seen that rise to the top, and thus the creators of it rise to the top, and we would have said, well, you know what, we want these guys spearheading the story and the canon moving forward. We don't want these guys over here spearheading it. And there's only so much of that the bigwigs at the top of Disney can take before they say, okay, you guys are, forget critically, commercially, you're not viable anymore. You're out. You guys, you're commercially viable, and you're also critically viable. So you're in. And so I would say that over time that would have happened, but God, I would have hated to see another movie shit on my childhood the way that these three new movies, produced by, like I said, the spearheaders of the cinematic Star Wars universe would have created. I would have hated that. I wouldn't have wanted to watch it. And, I still to this day haven't seen Solo. I mean, I would never have imagined myself sitting there, a wide-eyed kid, watching Revenge of the Sith, amazed at it, just blown away by that story. I would not have ever seen myself thinking, oh, a Star Wars movie is going to come out and I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to bother seeing it. Not even because I don't have the time. Not even because I can't find myself to spend $13. It's on Disney Plus now, and I can't be bothered to go watch it. Because at that point, it's not a Star Wars movie anymore. It's a movie about space pirates. And so, and that's not because it doesn't have lightsabers. It's because it doesn't have those themes. The people who were spearheading that movement abandoned them long ago. And so, they made people like me say, yeah, I'm going to get off the train. And so, when The Mandalorian came along and said, well, hey, we got something for you. And I was like, well, I'm gonna get on this new train. This is cool train. And, you know, I just like that direction. I'm excited for Star Wars, the streaming side of it. I think they're gonna move in the direction of those creators of, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau. I think that's their names. And I think that's a good thing. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. So long way of ending of what is a very short, simple question, and I think we can end the stream with that question because the next question would just take far too long.
Yeah.
All right. Huh?
Yeah, Star Wars. Anything Star Wars.
Yeah. No. You missed. Okay, let's start from the beginning. No, I'm just kidding. But it's not anything Star Wars, okay? By no means is it anything Star Wars. It's anything streaming Star Wars. Cinematic Star Wars is dead, okay? They killed it. Disney elected someone to then kill it. But
hey, you this for like 20 minutes. We're good.
Yeah. Streaming Star Wars. I'm excited. That's where my money is. That's where my time, my energy, my efforts are. Streaming Star Wars. Thumbs up. And that's where we'll end it. So, yeah.
See ya.
Alright. I'll catch you later. You have a good one.